Building a PC on a budget is still possible in 2025. Here's how to do it without breaking the bank. Despite inflated GPU prices and component shortages, crafting a custom desktop can still deliver better value than pre-built systems. Let's dive into 5 builds spanning $500 to $5,000, each tailored to different needs and budgets. But here's where it gets controversial. Is it smarter to splurge on a single high-end GPU or spread your budget across future-proof components? The answer might surprise you. Why build when you can buy pre-built? Pre-built PCs often cost more than their parts, especially when you factor in compromises like weaker specs or outdated designs. For example, a basic Dell or HP system starts at $400 to $500, but you can beat that with a DIY build. Even better, you'll gain control over every component and avoid vendor lock-in. And this is the part most people miss. Future-proofing isn't just about specs. It's about choosing platforms that stay relevant for years. AMD's AM5 socket, for instance, outpaces Intel's LGA 1700, 1851, and AMD's AM4 in longevity. But here's the question. Should you prioritize long-term compatibility or short-term savings? The budget all-rounder, $479 to $504, ideal for web browsing, schoolwork, light gaming, Minecraft, Roblox, Fortnite. Limitations. Modern AAA games will need low settings, and performance hinges on software optimization. Key components. Tiering, AMD Ryzen 5 8500G, $160. A hybrid CPU with 6 cores, Zen 4, Zen 4C, great for everyday tasks. GPU, integrated Radeon 740M, handles casual gaming at 1080p, but struggles with ray trace titles. RAM, 16GB DDR5 6000, $49. Enough for multitasking but not for heavy VR or streaming. Storage, 500GB PCIe 4.0 SSD, $45. Upgrade to 1TB for $20 more if you plan to install large games. This build is perfect for beginners. The Gigabyte B650M motherboard, $130, includes Wi-Fi and dual M2 slots for easy upgrades. But here's the catch. The Ryzen 5 8500G Zen 4C cores are slower than standard Zen 4 cores. Is this a deal breaker for productivity, or does the price justify the trade-off? The budget gaming PC, $793 to $828, ideal for smooth 1080p gaming and 1440p in less demanding titles. Limitations. Future upgrades may require a full rebuild due to Intel's LGA 1700 socket. Key components. Intel Core i5-13400F, $130. 10 cores, 6P plus 4E for balanced performance. GPU, AMD Radeon RX 960 XT, 16GB, 370 to 380. Outperforms the 8GB variant in 1440p and ray-traced games. RAM, 16GB DDR4, $3,200. Upgrading to 32GB is optional, but recommended for multitaskers. Storage, 1TB PCIe 4.0 SSD, $64. Fits most AAA titles, but consider a second M.2 slot for expansion. This build leans into Intel's aging but reliable 13th gen chips. The Radeon RX 960 XT 16GB VRAM gives it an edge over the. But here's the debate. Is AMD's RX 960 XT a better value than NVIDIA's RTX 5060, or does DLSS make the latter more future-proof? The future-proof mid-tier $1,070 to $1,110, ideal for 1440p gaming, streaming and content creation. Limitations. Frame rates won't surpass the budget build, but stability and upgrade paths are stronger. Key components. 1. CPU, AMD Ryzen 7 7700X, $243. 8-core Zen 4 CPU with better multi-threaded performance than Intel's i5. GPU, same RX 960 XT 16GB, 370 to 380, future-proofed for 1440p gaming. RAM, 32GB DDR5 6000, $82. Eliminates RAM bottlenecks for heavy multitasking. Storage, 2TB PCIe 4.0 SSD, $115. Ample space for games and creative projects. This build prioritizes longevity. The Ryzen 7 7700X pairs well with an AM5's PCIe 5.0 support, and the 32GB RAM ensures compatibility with upcoming games. But here's the question. Is spending an extra $100 on 32GB RAM worth it for casual gamers, or is 16GB sufficient? The 4K gaming beast. $1,829 to $1,934, ideal for 4K gaming, high frame rate 1440p and professional workflows. Limitations. The RTX 5070 Ti is pricey, but it's the sweet spot for 4K performance. Key components: AMD Ryzen 7 7800X 3D, $367 boosts gaming FPS at lower resolutions. GPU, NVIDIA RTX 5070 Ti, $810 to $850. Delivers RTX 4080-like performance at a lower cost. RAM, 32GB DDR5 6000, $82, future-proofs against memory-heavy applications. Storage, 2TB PCIe 4.0 SSD, $130, upgradable to PCIe 5.0 if needed. This build is all about balance. The RTX 5070 Ti's DLSS and ray tracing support give it an edge over AMD's RX 9070 for Windows users. But here's the dilemma. Should you invest in a single high-end GPU or a dual GPU setup for 4K? The God Box, $4,891 to $5,146, ideal for everything: 4K gaming, 8K video editing, and AI workloads. Limitations. It's absurdly expensive, but it's the pinnacle of consumer hardware. Key components. A. CPU. AMD Ryzen 9 9950, $700. 16-core Zen 5 CPU with gaming-optimized cache. GPU, NVIDIA RTX 5090, $2,400 to $2,600. The fastest GPU available, but it costs as much as an entire budget PC. RAM, 128GB DDR5 6400, $380. Overkill for most users, but future-proofs against memory-heavy apps. Storage, 4TB PCIe 5.0 SSD, $450. Overkill, but who cares when you have the budget? This build is a love letter to hardware enthusiasts. The RTX 5090's 32GB VRAM and the Ryzen 9 9950 X3D's gaming-optimized architecture make it a powerhouse. But here's the controversial question. Is this level of performance justified for the average user? Or is it a luxury for the few? Final thoughts. Building a PC in 2025 is still rewarding, if you know where to cut costs and where to splurge. The key is balancing future-proofing with immediate needs. For example, AMD's AM5 platform offers longevity. And this is the part most people forget. Linux support for AMD GPUs is improving, making it a viable alternative for budget builds. So, what do you think? Is building a PC still worth it in 2025, or should you just buy a Steam Deck and forget about desktops? Share your thoughts in the comments below.